Afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking time to listen to me this afternoon. Hopefully I've got some quite different and some unique projects for you to listen to. Usual disclaimer. Start off with a corporate summary. So we have 459 million shares on issue. We have a market cap of 13.3 million. Our share price is 0.29 cents. Our top 20 shareholders make up 44% of the business, and the directors make up 15% of that. We have 3.8 million approximately in the bank at the moment and 0.2 million in liquid assets. Our non-executive chairman is Neil Biddle, who you all probably know is one of the founding directors of Pilbara Minerals. And then as myself, as an engineer with over 25 years experience in the energy industry. Then we have Elias Carew, who's our non-executive director, who has an extensive experience in the equity markets. And then the latest member to join our board is John Barr, who's chartered accountant by trade, over 25 years experience, and was one of the founding directors of Mosman Oil and Gas. So overall, quite a very experienced team. 3 projects today I'd like to talk about. We have our first one, which is the uranium project, the Douglas River Uranium Project, which has the potential for uranium, tin, gold, and some rare earth elements. And then we have our Alpha Turbonite project with its bitumen products. And then we have our geothermal projects with its sustainable 24/7 energy. Okay, so starting off with the Douglas River Uranium Project. So the project comprises of EL 33670 and ELA 33900, which are in the prolific Pine Creek mineral fields in the Northern Territory. Greenvale entered into a farming agreement with Gempart to acquire 80% of the interest in this project, and it's located around 200 kilometres south of Darwin. The Pine Creek region is one of the world's largest and richest uranium provinces, and despite this, it still remains lightly explored. The project is highly prospective through a suite of elements, including uranium, tin, and gold, and contains multiple uranium-thorium ratio anomalies that are concentrated within the 2 interpreted paleo channels on the western and eastern margins of the tenements. These targets are quite shallow as well, running down around 15 metres depth, but this will be confirmed during the field works. So if we have a look what previous exploration work has been carried out there, there's been quite a bit. So the Douglas River samples discovered high anomalies of tantalum, which is used in electronic components, SN is tin, and niobium as well, which is used in alloys such as stainless steel. So the drainage samples identified all those anomalies, which is really good. The Denihurst, the three drainage samples revealed gold contents at 3.1, 1.46 and 0.08 ppm. So again, for drainage samples, quite good, high quality. United Uranium did extensive uranium exploration with low base metals anomalies, and aerial survey which identified the paleo channels, but unfortunately drilling was abandoned due to weather. And Territory Uranium and Spectrum Rare Earths explored uranium and rare earth elements, identified 10 prospects, and notably the rare earth findings at Stromberg and Quantum in Area 16, which lies on the south there. And if you see it, I know the map's not that clear, which shows that it discovered 70 ppm of uranium and then 735 ppm of total rare earth elements in the rock chips. So what's proposed, what's our targeted approach for this project? So we'll do some airborne surveys, 100 metres spaced airborne, magnetic radiometrics covering the entire project site. Today there's only about 500 metres spacing. Historical findings of the Northern Territory Geological Service surveys identified multiple uranium and thorium anomalies in the eastern and western paleo channels, with highly anomalous zones in the Eastern Channel. The United Uranium conducted closed-spaced airborne radiometrics over the southern eastern anomaly and defining a significant drill target there for us. We'll take full advantage of. And then the current focus for Greenvale, as mentioned, we'll go out there, look at the southeastern anomalies as an immediate drill target, and then as we move north, look at the northeastern for uranium anomalies that need once we've got the closer drilling space for further drilling. So why uranium? Well, I personally worked in the nuclear industry in the UK, so I know the benefits of the nuclear industry. So if you want clean, reliable energy, the lowest carbon emissions, small footprint compared to other renewable projects, then nuclear power is really the way to go. Supply constraints, there's been a number over the last few years. So uranium production has been subject to geopolitical tensions and mine closures. So the supply of uranium has slowed down. What we're seeing is, though, is a lot of support and an increased demand for uranium. So the climate change policies targets increasing population and driving down the emissions is driving for a renewable energy source that will sustain this and the demands of a growing population. So we've got policy support, so there's changes in the government energy policies that we're seeing support for nuclear power expansion and carbon pricing mechanisms that are intensive low-carbon energy sources. The COP28, where 22 countries there launched a declaration to triple nuclear energy by 2050. So what we're going to see is overall, we're going to see a bigger demand for uranium, and the supply needs to start catching up. So the uranium price, I think, over the coming years is going to continue to rise as there's a shortage of it. Alpha Turbinate project. So for those of us who've been following us for a while, I'm sure you're keen to understand how this project's progressing and how we'll grow in. So for those that don't, there's a bit of a background. The Alpha Turbinate project is located 500 kilometres west of Rockhampton, and it's around 70 kilometres from the township of Alpha. It contains one of the only 2 known turbinate deposits in Australia, and ours is probably the only commercial deposit of turbinate. The other one is in Tasmania, but it's not got the size to be commercial. We've got an inferred mineral resource estimate of 28 million tonnes of combined canalite and turbinate. And we have the potential to be a key domestic source supplier of bitumen in Australia. Currently, bitumen is imported to Australia from overseas, so around 1 million tonnes of bitumen is shipped into Australia by big, heavy oil tankers heated up at 240 degrees. So our aim is to be a key supplier and helping taking the burden off having to import all of it into Australia. What we see is quite a high price for bitumen pricing. So the premium is C170, which is the most commonly used bitumen in Australia. And if you can see it on the right-hand side, bitumen goes for around $1,500 per tonne. So it's quite an expensive asset. And if you imagine being transported across the world into Australia, it's one of the reasons why. So where are we today? So project milestones, as I mentioned earlier, substantial resource increase, 51 becreates 28 million tonnes. It was previously 18.6 million tonnes of canalite and turbinate. We did complete test program 4. We used the University of Monash for that test work. Unfortunately, the core material didn't react the same as the outcrop from test program 3. Hence, we had to change things around a little bit during test program 4, which was anticipated. When we sent the product over to Technique, who are our bitumen expert in New Zealand, what it came back was that We produced bitumen, but we didn't quite reach the grade of the premium C170. Their viscosity and the penetration was a bit light. So what we've done is commence test program 5 to address those issues. So we engaged the University of Jordan, who did our initial test program 3, which was highly successful. Unfortunately, they weren't available at the time to do test program 4 for us, but we've got them back now. We're well underway on test program 5. The results today are looking positive. Unfortunately, I can't share them with you today as we haven't got those finalised, but you can expect them coming out shortly. Things are moving in the right direction. Once we've assured ourselves that we've addressed the viscosity and the penetration issues, the next phase will produce a bulk sample and send that back over to Technique, who will then certify the product, and then we can proceed with the project. So finally, our geothermal opportunity. So we have 4 geothermal exploration licenses out there, permits. 3 of them are in the highly regarded Mullingar Basin. So this is in central Queensland, Julia Creek. The Queensland government carried out a study probably about 10 years ago now, looking for geothermal sites, and the Mullingar Basin came back as the most highly prospective site. The reason for that is it has a hot rock sediment system. So when you drill down there, the rocks are hot. So basically, you push a fluid down, the fluid heats up, you bring the fluid to the top, you heat it through a heat exchange, turns to steam, steam goes into a steam turbine, and then you generate power. So it's a closed-loop circuit, so there's no emissions, so it's renewable, 24 hours, 7 days a week, renewable energy power, not reliant on the wind or the sun shining. The Mullingar Basin, the previous study carried out, identified storage thermal energy potential like 611,000 petajoules with a 90% probability. And if you look at geothermal at the moment, there's the licenses and the geothermal industry is really starting to take off. We put in our first application. I think we were the first ones, second ones in, only about 5 applicants in. There's over 100 now. So the geothermal industry is really taking off in Australia. And what we're seeing is as well, we're based in the Mullingar Basin. We have the government's copper string transmission line going there, the whole high voltage line. So that gives us an opportunity to connect into that and not only supply local industry, but also be able to put that onto the grid to bring back into the East Coast market as well. So key investment takeaways. So we have some quite unique growth opportunities, future focus, critical high value commodities. We're ideally positioned to become Australia's only end-to-end domestic source of bitumen for our burgeoning infrastructure demands, with that market growing year on year. New uranium projects in the world-class Pine Creek mineral field. And we have our renewable energy geothermal advancing in Queensland as well. And on top of that, we have a very experienced management team as well. So thank you very much for listening to me today. If you've got any questions, I'm just located opposite the coffee. So if you want to kill time while you're waiting for a coffee, come and talk to me.